fellow participants. Welcome to today's episode. My name is Dr. M.T Soomiyol, and the course we'll be taking you on is International Procurement, Quality and Standards. At the end of the day, these are the objectives you should be able to define the concept of globalization, define drivers of globalization, and impact of globalization. Globalization is the word used to describe the growing interdependence of the world economics in terms of culture and population. And this is brought about by cross-border trade in goods and services. In simple terms, globalization is a term used to describe how trade and technology have made the world into a more connected and interdependent place. We're talking about globalization, we'll be looking at the three types of globalization. We'll be looking at economic globalization, political globalization, cultural globalization. Now let's take economic globalization. It is a process of economic and trade activities which countries around the world enter into an increasingly integrated market forces without any resistance by territorial limit of the countries. Examples are the ECOWAS here in Africa and the North American Trade Organization and the Trans-Pacific Partnership. All these are aspects of economic globalization. For political globalization, we'll be looking at the increasing interdependence of countries and their government in the global political landscape. We now look at the international organizations such as the United Nations, International Monetary Funds, ECOWAS. And then at the political globalization also we have what we call the global governance, where countries come together to promote human rights and climate change agreements. Cultural globalization is a process whereby particular cultures, meanings, ideas, values, and experiences are disseminated through the world through a variety of means, major among which includes transborder movement of people. Popular among this is, for now, for example, I can eat Chinese food here in Nigeria because of Chinese who have come to Nigeria to establish Chinese restaurants. What are then are the drivers of globalization? There are several of them. Are the economic drivers? We have the economic drivers, technological drivers, social drivers, and political drivers. When we talk about economic drivers, we're looking at international trade, foreign direct investment, that is increased investment across borders. Technological drivers also include technological transfer, information and communication, and recently what we have the AI, artificial intelligence. We also have social drivers. This involves migration and mobility, cultural exchange, human rights, and social justice. Political drivers, on the other hand, involves trade agreement between countries, diplomacy, and international relationship between one or two countries, and then the global governance, where we have United Nations, IMF, and World Bank playing very key roles. Now, what are the impact of globalization? We have flow of ideas from one part of the world to another, flow of capital between two or more countries, flow of commodities between traded that have been traded across borders. We should remember that no country produces all that it needs. So you produce what you can and you buy from what you cannot produce. We have flow of people in search of better livelihood to different parts of the world. In Nigeria, what is now known as the Japa syndrome. We also have better collaborations between countries. This can be in form of agriculture, can be in form of science and warfare. Welcome to uh, the module 2. We now have the concept of new organizational paradigm. Now, what exactly is new organizational paradigm? It is the broad of norms, values, practices that are in place to guide behavior and decision making. What then is a paradigm shift? A paradigm shift in business is a major change or development in how a company uh, or businesses produces their goods and services. When does paradigm shift now occurs in business? It often occurs when there's a new technology or equipment introduced to the company which drastically helps in altering the functions of the organization. A very good example of paradigm shift in businesses these days is where before now, companies will send their officials to physically represent them in other countries for meetings and be able to discuss businesses. But now you can sit at the comfort of your home and be able to discuss with somebody from any part of the world using video conferencing. Another very good example is just as I'm lecturing now, you may be listening to me from any part of the world. All these forms what is known as organizational paradigm. In module 3, we'll be looking at the concept of international sourcing strategy, and then you should be able to also list and explain the types of international sourcing strategy. But then, what is international sourcing strategy? It refers to the process of planning, coordinating, and managing the procurement of goods, services from global suppliers to meet organizational needs. We have basically three types of international sourcing strategy. We have the outsourcing, we have the insourcing, and near sources in no any particular arrangement. However, let's look at them. What then is outsourcing? Procurement outsourcing simply means transferring supply chain and procurement functions to a third party. Organizations usually outsource supplies to tap into their market knowledge and skills. Insourcing, on the other hand, is where an organization engages and fully utilizes its internal workforce or employees to accomplish and meet its routine procurement and supply chain functions. Then we have the near sourcing. Near sourcing is a procurement strategy where a company sources goods and services from suppliers located in nearby region, and this is done to save costs and improve on the lead time. In Module 4, we'll be looking at the international quality standard. So at the end of the Module 4, you should be able to tell us what international quality standard is, to differentiate between certification and accreditation, and be acquainted with environmental issues from ISO 14001 2000. What then is international quality standard? These are criteria or rules set up by organizations that help determine compliance across national borders. This rule makes it easier to conduct business on a level playing field and also allowed more collaboration by overcoming local or regional constraints. Now let's look at what then is certification and accreditation. Certification is the process of verifying an organization's expertise, knowledge, or skills in a specific area. It is typically awarded by a third party organization, confirming that the organization meets predetermined standards. Accreditation, on the other hand, is the process of evaluating and recognizing an organization's or program quality, credibility, and adherence to standards. It ensures that the organization's or program meets established criteria. Now let's look at ISO 9001 certification. ISO simply stands for International Standard Organization. Then ISO 9001 certification is defined as the international standard that specifies requirements for a quality management system, QMS. Organizations use the standard to demonstrate the ability to consistently provide goods and services that meets customer and regulatory requirements. What does ISO 901 means? It refers to the International Organization for Standardization. This organization develops the standards and it does so in order to certify businesses or organizations. Then we also have ISO 14001 2004. It is an international standard for environmental management system, EMS. It provides a framework for organizations to manage um, their impacts on the environment, improve sustainability, and comply with international regulations. Module 5, we'll be looking at the case for quality procurement. You should be able to differentiate between global products, regional products, and explain the principle of 4R1D. A business case for quality procurement document. This is a document. This A business case for quality procurement documents the information needed to decide whether to supply a proposed procurement activity before significantly committing your resources to its development. It assesses the cost and the benefit of proceeding with such a project. What is the role of procurement quality in procurement? The key objective of quality assurance during procurement is to ensure that only products or services that are safe, effective, and of assured quality and conform with internationally recognized standards are procured, and that their quality are maintained until supply to the end user. Now, when we look at the global products as against regional products. Global products, like the name implies, are products that are marketed internationally under the same brand, same feature, same name. A good example is Nestle, Procter and Gamble, and others. For regional products, we're looking at products that are produced within a particular region, and in most cases, do not actually go outside. Then let's look at green supply chain management. It involves sustainable environmental processes built into conventional supply chains from manufacturing to operations to end of life of the product. It incorporates the principle of 4R1D. The 4R here means this R, there are four: 1, 2, 3, 4. So we are talking of reduce, reuse, recycle, reclaim, and degradable. That is one. The D is one. That is why it's said degradable. And it can also be displayed in this form, uh, like you can see here. Now let's look at what does it mean to. Let's look at them one after the other. Reuse. We should reduce. Sorry, reduce. We should reduce our use of dangerous, non-degradable substances. Example: polythene bags. These are bags that polythene bags, when buried, can stay for as long as it can. It does not dissolve. So in countries like Rwanda, issues of polythene bags have been banned. What they now use is paper bags and not polythene bags. Reuse. Instead of dumping materials, we should reuse them. Things that we have used, instead of dumping them, we can reuse them. Example: plastic bags that ought to have been dumped, I can now see them being reused to manufacture very beautiful items. Recovery, on the other hand, if there's any cabbage left over, it has to be reused and recycled. We can use it to generate energy or waste to energy plant. This is referred to as recovery. Recycle, on the other hand, is non-degradable materials that are recycled uh, for use. An example is plastic bags. For Module 6, the objectives will be to define environmental protection, describe the step-by-step strategic sourcing process from suppliers. The objective of environmental protection is to maintain a commitment to long ecological sustainability through procurement and conserve resources, save energy, minimize waste, protect human health, and maintain environmental quality. Now, when we talk of issues of environmental protection, we'll be talking of climate change, deforestation, water pollution, air pollution, waste management, biodiversity, resource depletion, and environmental justice. Climate change is perhaps the most pressing environmental issue in our time, and it refers to the long-term changes in global temperature and weather pattern caused by greenhouse emission. Deforestation is the clearing of the forests for agriculture, mining, or urban development. This has actually caused a lot of problems that has led to soil erosion and habitat destruction. Water pollution, on the other hand, is the contamination of water bodies such as rivers, lakes, oceans by human activities through industrial discharge and sewage disposal. Air pollution. As we speak, India is grappling with this very big problem. It is the release of harmful gases and particulate matters into the air, which can lead to respiratory illnesses. All these are issues of environmental protection. Module 7, we are going to be looking at the steps by step strategic sourcing process through the supplier. And at the end of it, it's expected that you, the participant, should be able to list these steps and be able to explain them one after the other. Now, this is how it looks like. The step 1 is the spend analysis. We have the market research, request for interest or expression of interest, negotiation, contracting, onboarding, and then you monitor the performance. Spend analysis is the process of gathering, categorizing, uh, uh, and evaluating spending data to reduce procurement costs. It is one of the essential tools that procurement department employ to proactively find savings possibilities. After analyzing your spending, it will also help you to identify which supplier are most costly and which one are providing you value at a very good price. The second step is market research. This one is done once you have done a detailed spend analysis of your current suppliers base and have identified which ones are critical for your businesses, you can now conduct a market research. At this stage, either you can leverage on your existing supplier or you find and identify new suppliers. The third stage is the request for interest. After completing the market research, the next step is to solicit requests for proposal from supplier. This helps in supplier identification and negotiating strategy. The fourth step is negotiation. With the information gathered from your spend analysis, market research, and different proposals that you have received, you are now ready to negotiate the prices of goods or services with your supplier. Then the fourth one is contracting. You have created a win-win negotiation strategy with your supplier. Then this provides you with the highest cost savings and quality level while also satisfying the supplier requirements. It is time to draft a detailed contract, and the process goes on. Onboarding. This is you gather the information and data needed to establish uh, an organization as an approved supplier or vendor during the supplier onboarding process. This procedure aims to make it easier for a company in the future to do business, procure goods and services, and pay suppliers. Suppliers onboarding also necessitates vetting and validation to ensure that the prospective supplier complies with all applicable laws, regulations, and the policies of the company. The last but not the least is the monitor performance, and it's a very crucial one because it helps you to assess how the supplier perform in relation to the organization's requirement and objectives. You can evaluate their performance based on the terms of contract that you had signed earlier. At this stage, I want to appreciate you for listening and refer you to the materials that have been uploaded. Thank you.